customer journey map is a synthesis tool that illustrates the steps your users experience when engaging with your company, brand, product, or service. You have probably heard of an old saying, "Don't judge a man until you have walked a mile in his shoes." The customer journey map allows us to do exactly that. It is a research-based visualization which design team can use to map out all steps and activities that users go through and visualize the many dimensions involved. As you might expect, no two customer journeys are identical. However, they can be generalized to give an insight into the typical journey for your users. You can create a customer journey map for the buying process of your particular product or service. You can also create it to illustrate how the user uses your product or service. You can decide to focus on visualizing just the experience your users have on your web page, in a retail shop, or any other scenario. Similar to empathy maps and personas, customer journey maps can help to facilitate a common understanding of your users and gaining empathy for them and their experiences. They help you and your team to better explore the experiences, including feelings, frustrations, and their needs. It also allows you to discover possible problems and find areas where you need to improve your offerings so that they are more likely to exceed users' expectations throughout all the interaction points in this journey. There are hundreds of different customer journey templates available online, and their layouts vary greatly. However, there are a few key elements that the majority of them share. The starting point of every empathy map is a timeline, a defined journey period. Customer journeys can take place in a week, a year, a few hours, and knowing the lengths of the journey you will measure before you begin is quite useful. If the timeline varies too much for different users, you can also define it through generic stages that users go through. For instance, from recognizing a need to reordering a product. Note that despite the timeline, some journeys are often non-linear. Some users can skip certain stages or spin through iterations between two steps before moving on to the next one. Next, customer journey maps always highlight touch points or actions. Here you can ask yourself questions like, what are users doing at each stage? How are they doing it? What actions are they taking to move themselves onto the next stage? A typical customer journey map will also include channels. Channels are the places where customers interact with your company, brand, product, or service. So anything from a Facebook page, your web page, to a retail store. To get a better understanding of users' frustrations and potential needs, customer journey maps also try to include thoughts and feelings. Questions like, what emotions are they feeling? Why do they care? What are they thinking? Will help you to identify this emotional state of your customers. Besides these key elements, sometimes it may be useful to include a couple of additional elements, such as influencers. This gives you an understanding of any other actors who might alter the customer experience. For example, friends, family, colleagues, or other people may influence the way a customer feels about any given interaction with your company, brand, product, or service. Some customer journey maps will explicitly separate barriers or pain points your users are experiencing along their journey. This may refer, for instance, to cost or process barriers that stand in their way. You can also treat the journey as a storyboard, complete with photos or sketches of each stage. This is a nice way to add a bit more flavor and details to your customer journey map. No matter what elements you choose to include in your customer journey map, it is crucial that you map it from the user perspective. Let us look at the simple example of going to a doctor. Our timeline consists of 3 main stages. Everything that happens before the consultation with a doctor, during the consultation, and after the consultation. The channels through which we can interact with customers, in our case those are patients, are phone, waiting room, or pharmacy. Whether the patient is happy with the experience greatly depends on their emotions. That's why we have chosen to visualize their emotions in our customer journey map. It is also possible that patients do not say things out loud, either out of politeness or respect. And that is why we also include a dimension called thinking. Dimensions you choose to visualize in your customer journey can vary from one design challenge to another. So make sure that before you start your visualization, you think about which dimensions are important in your specific case. Let's now briefly look at the basic steps that will help you to create your customer journey map. Similar to the empathy map creation process, you will start by clarifying what is the goal of the mapping exercise. You will also clarify who your users are, preferably by providing your persona description. Otherwise, if you cannot describe your user, how will you know if you've captured their journey? And finally, you will define what user experience you want to visualize in your customer journey map. As a customer journey map is a synthesis tool, it is also a research-based tool. This means that it can be created once you have user research at your fingertips. Customer interviews, contextual inquiry, customer surveys, customer support logs, web analytics, social media, all are great tools to gather data about your users and their interactions with your company. You can also ask customers to map out their journeys for you while you are visiting them for the research or through the diaries. After a careful analysis, you will identify the main stages, touchpoints, and channels. You can also use this step to brainstorm and see if there are any touchpoints or channels you've missed in your original data collection phase. Don't forget to add thoughts and feelings your users are experiencing. And you might also try to prioritize them so that at the end of this exercise, you can easier identify the areas that need most improvements. Last but not least, don't forget to refine your content once new data emerges. You can also use this customer journey maps from your synthesis phase as an inspiration for your idea generation phase and brainstorm ways to improve your product and service offerings.